Oh yeah, that's true. That's right.
And we are live. Welcome to the very first Growth with Tacos podcast. My name is Bruce Walker, and joining us today is Jason Alaya, Rob Chen, and Devin Overdan. Everybody say hi.
What up?
Hello.
Good.
Joining us today is Jason Alaya, Rob Chen, and Devin Overdan.
I keep.
What,
Who is
what?
that?
Did I just hear the feedback?
I think I just heard Pierce.
Yeah.
So,
Pierce, are you
joining
watching our stream in another tab?
something like that. So today, all right, we're getting the viewers starting to hit up. Welcome.
Hello.
So
viewers.
today,
We love you
if
all.
anybody has paid attention to Jason's Twitter stream, you can see the most orgasmic looking foods creatable. That man might as well be a professional chef in another career. He's a professional writer instead for Hollywood. But
I could attest to that, Pierce, and I will say that if you have not had Jason's mac and cheese, you're missing out.
oh yeah,
That's all I could say.
all of us know each other from being out in Storm Lake, Iowa, campaigning for a guy named Andrew Yang who ran for president. Had some cool ideas. I don't know if you heard of him.
Maybe.
And while we were there, we were all bunking in this shack of a place. Jason here is cooking dinner for us. Man knows how to cook. I'll put it that way.
He
I just made
definitely.
tacos in fucking 7 minutes. So
For sure. So for anybody just tuning in for the first time or from anybody coming over from our previous Storm Game podcast, the name of the game, Growth with Tacos, it's four guys chatting. We like tacos. We like food. And the idea is hopefully we manage to share perspectives and grow and learn new things along the process. Very often we're just talking about life, the current events in life. And again, if we come out stronger for it, hopefully you come out stronger for it too. So that's us. Thanks for being here.
In the chat room too.
Say again, Jason?
We have Let's Fix America in the chat room too. One of our fellow podcasts.
Hello, Let's Fix America. I'm going to send you that wave back.
Taco cheers.
Thanks for being here, Mayank and Mayank.
Jason, are you eating the actual taco right now?
Mhm.
Nice. Very fitting. I didn't bring my tacos today.
Oh wait, we need to see it. Well, like what?
Well, I'm already like halfway through. Like I made 4 of them.
What'd you say it was chicken?
Yeah. Chicken and a lot of peppers.
It's called pollo asada in the taco world.
Pollo asada. Oh my God, give me a pollo asada. Give me some carnitas. Give me a chorizo. Give me all that, man.
Robert
Pierce,
Kelly.
before we went live, you were telling us what your taco was. What was it?
My taco?
Yeah. What was it?
Oh, you're putting me on blast, ain't you? All right.
I'm just the listeners
Taco
didn't get a chance to hear.
So this right here is a homemade queso that I got. And it happens to go great with chips. Thank you very much. As far as tacos go, so I figured with how often we talk about current events, my town, I live in Rochester for everyone watching. I figured Rochester would be a frequent topic of discussion for this podcast, this episode. And I figured what better way to introduce it than this local Rochester taco joint called Mighty Taco. And now, I'm just going to be honest with you. This taco joint is the only people that would ever think that this food is good is drunk people. All right? This is not good.
So it's Taco Bell essentially.
Yeah. So anyway, I went there.
Taco Bell's like
oh yeah, I got a little over half an hour. You know, I've got enough time to go there, quick fast food, pick some up, and they're closed. They have been another casualty of the great COVID restaurant war and annihilation. Yeah,
like proper closed.
Yep.
Like not opening, not like temporarily closed. It's like shut down.
Yeah. So just down the street, by the way, was Taco Bell. I've never seen so many cars in a drive-thru on a Wednesday night before.
They were all getting ready for a podcast.
Well, they
It's
have
probably like, like since the other taco spot in our town closed down, I guess we have the only option, which is Taco Bell.
Yeah, they have a monopoly on the Rochester taco.
Well, certainly not a monopoly, but
I'm playing.
In my neighborhood, I was like, wow. So anyway, I just headed back, got some queso and tortillas. It works out. And of course, I got a beer for my suggestion of the name, you know, Growth with Beer.
I like that one too. I like that one too.
But it's good to be with you guys, for sure.
Good to be with you too, sir.
Yes, it is fantastic to be with you guys. And what has been in the latest in terms of what have you guys been What have you guys been reading recently? What's the latest thing that you have either read or seen?
I feel like we're trying to steal from Yang Gang Book Club right now. Their whole
Is that what they do?
shtick. Yeah.
Oh shoot!
What have you been reading?
I apologize, Yang Gang Book Club, but also Yang Gang Book Club. Shout outs to you guys. You guys are awesome too. What up?
I just reread Frank Portman's King Dork approximately, which is the follow-up to King Dork. So yeah, that's what I read recently. So
Word.
dude can write. You can also play Hello Good Music, Mr. T Experience, you know, out of San Francisco Bay Area. Great jam band. Listen, love.
What do you say? A world with only big chain restaurants sounds so sad.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it would
we
be.
do. Have you not seen that Mike Judge movie?
I feel that though. I feel that for sure. There's something about just like mom and pop restaurants. It just hits different, man. It just hits real different, you know. I've seen a lot of these stores close into like I know Pierce, you're in Rochester, and like I'm in like New York City area, and probably every block I go to, there's at least one store that is just gone for good. You know?
Yeah, it's probably worse over here, to be frank.
In Rochester.
Yeah, if you're saying only one store in a block, I'm thinking, wow, you guys are doing well.
I'm saying at least that's how I see it. At least one store in a block, but mind you, we have a lot of blocks.
Yeah, you got a lot of blocks.
Stores, so it's like cumulatively, it is also for me. It's still like a big shocking factor because I'm like, wow, like one store per block is still like a huge hit for me when I see it. But also like where I live, like I'm not too far away from like some pretty big commercial streets, and these streets have big stores like Century 21, like Victoria's Secret, Sephora, like Starbucks. Starbucks has lived. I'm not surprised about that. However, Victoria's Secret, they already had a full, like, I passed by them and there's like a whole sign that says like full, like selling everything, like sale and stuff. So they got a whole bunch of people lining up for the final orders. And I'm like, damn, like, well, this is going to be gone forever, along with that store, this store, this store, and that store. All of these.
They're all going to become Amazon fulfillment centers.
Yo,
Something like that.
yeah,
I was actually just
already
reading.
started buying retail sections that are shut down and stuff for that.
I hear
is that what
rent
they're currently
prices-
doing right now?
Yeah, he's already started buying businesses that have closed down and stuff.
Yeah,
Wow.
I hear rent prices.
He's making major real estate plays like nationwide.
Yeah,
So if you like have a local business that shut down, Jeff Bezos is coming in looking at you. If you have enough like floor size, he's buying you. He's gun and gun for that 30 minutes or less delivery time.
yeah, and a lot of the expensive places to live, rent prices are actually going down because
They are.
a lot of those, high income jobs that supported the rent are transitioned to remote work
Yeah.
due to the pandemic.
And some of them are going to stay remote forever.
Right, exactly. So you're actually seeing a lot of people leaving the cities and moving out to the suburbs and
Yeah.
whatnot.
Well, it's just way cheaper out there, you know, and there's less people.
Right.
So here in New York City, there's a good amount of people who did leave. I mean, yeah, there's still people who are here, but a lot of people left. And I know that there's people who have lowered their rent probably like a good couple of $100 from the market price, which is insane already. So I guess if you're trying to move into New York City, this might not be a bad time to try to take a look.
Yeah.
That's so interesting to think about because I think the only context by which I've seen people even discuss this idea that people have been leaving these big cities is through, like the protests and the riots, and it's making everyone flee New York City and, LA and all this stuff. Like they're getting destroyed. But
Well-
that's not. I kind of just, shrug that off when I just saw it in news feeds or whatever, social media feeds. But it's probably actually based in some reality on the fact that people are leaving. It's just that they're leaving for that reason. Like why?
I wouldn't say it's like, I wouldn't say it's
right after Corona hit. So.
Like, I don't think the protests. Protests definitely have an impact on it, but people have already started to leave, like even before June, And,
Yeah,
like,
exactly. I mean, everyone was saying that.
Everyone
So,
was
like,
saying when the coronavirus hit and everything, like Manhattan, everyone who had their second homes and stuff just went straight down to Florida. That's why Florida's outbreak got slammed all of a sudden, spiked like that because rich New Yorkers have second homes in Florida.
yeah, and most of them do have a spot in like Florida,
Yeah.
of all places.
So they all went to Florida where there were no mask restrictions or anything like that, and killed a whole bunch of people down there by being stupid. So.
You're not wrong about that, Jason.
Yeah.
That
Yeah,
is
I mean, everyone talking about the fact that it's the riots causing everyone to leave. It's obviously people who like talking about the riots, so like right-leaning media people, just whatever in general. But it's so interesting how easy it is to like, because people in New York City have probably seen that people are leaving. You maybe like see some stats about people leaving, just at a glance if you're looking at news, and then you see a video like that by someone claiming that it's because of the riots.
Yeah.
And then that's like pretty easy to believe. It's like it's very simple, It's like, so a lot of people buy it. Like I was like visiting LA, visiting family in LA recently, and my friend who's pretty right leaning or whatever watches Fox News and some other things a lot. He first thing he said is like, "Oh, it's a shithole down there, right?" Like, "Oh, like better watch out." Like he just thinks it's just complete chaos. I'm not in those cities, so I don't know for sure, but
Yeah.
I don't know. You guys can speak to that better than me.
I just want to give a shout out to Mindful Skeptics for that comment on UBI. It was definitely something that Andrew Yang has talked about before, about where like the wealth disparity has been in terms of how it's always been on the coast and not in rural areas and not in middle of America. So I definitely do agree with that too. Like if we have something like UBI in place, then yeah, people could be dispersed out more and they don't have to go to places like New York or LA. To Devin, of what you're saying, yeah, I definitely would say that like a lot of it is not from the protests because 95% of all the protests are peaceful.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
And they have been like every single one of the protests that I've been in, dude. There's volunteers who are coming up to you, being like, "Hey, do you need sunscreen? Hey, do you need an extra mask? Are you dehydrated? Do you need water?" Like,
yeah,
they have like street medics. It's stacked, and they even have like bikers who are there to like hold off the road when cars are passing by, so all the other protesters who are marching with signs could be there, could walk the road safely. So I'm like, dude, this is like is very, if anything, it's very welcoming. It's very welcoming. I feel part of something bigger, and I feel safe like being in those areas. When normally I think that how media twists is very like, look at them vandalizing this Christopher Columbus statue again. There are. I'm not going to start. Like, it doesn't happen. Like, that part of it is there, but I think part, and that they don't really like go to the other parts of like, okay, this is what goes behind the scenes. This is like what they're organizing about. This is what the message is. And it doesn't help that there are certain incidents that happen at certain protests and at certain marches that ends up being violent. Those usually get shown because media wants to show things that's like very like out there and shocking. Even stuff outside of protests, like if you look at shark attacks, like how many people die from shark attacks versus how many people get killed from like an airplane debris hitting them on the head. Like it's actually somewhat similar in terms of those rates, but shark attacks gets covered way more in the newspapers and in media because it's, oh shit, it's a shark, versus like, oh, this random like shit just like hit your head and you died, like what makes it a more interesting story, and it's that one.
Yeah, and also like kind of even more to that analogy, it's like you're not gonna see like a Chiron or whatever headline that's like no one got attacked by a shark at the beach today again.
Yeah.
Next day, no one got eaten by a shark today.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Like you're just gonna see people got eaten by sharks, and then you're gonna think that sharks are killing everybody.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And most sharks don't even eat people. The intention is not to eat people anyway.
Oh yeah.
We're fed this like message that they're like that every shark is a great white shark, pretty much.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's so obvious to me that the biggest problem, like Yang and a lot of people talk about Joe Biden right on the campaign trails talking about healing the nation and like fixing the soul of the nation and stuff. It's just so obvious to me that how media, mainstream media, whatever, social media is structured. I don't really see how it's going to be possible to actually do any healing or anything like that. It just doesn't. I just don't see how you can do it. I know there was a recent Yang Speaks. Who was it? The democracy guy. What was his name? What was that?
Jason, what do you
The
say?
white guy?
I can't hear you, Jason. Really,
Oh, the white guy?
the white guy. Is
No,
it?
I said the white guy.
That's what I thought you said too.
Oh, the democracy guy.
There's so
I
many
forget.
democracy guys. I think Yang has no one on the show that doesn't believe in democracy.
Yeah.
Who
He
What are you talking about? Oh wait, are you talking about? Is it with one person or two people? Like,
There was one guy.
okay.
His name. He did like a town hall with him back in New Hampshire, like back in the day during the campaign. I should totally remember his name. Whatever. But yeah, they were specifically talking about this problem of the media in terms of like having local journalism fellows and right, like Yang always talked about establishing and strengthening local journalism, and then kind of dealing with social media, like attacking it from multiple angles. And what they had to say was good, but it's so complicated. Like you can't tell Fox News or whatever to like not. The government can't say that you're not allowed to cover things this way, right? For example.
Well, I mean, people are all about the clicks and they're all about the views, so they can increase advertising and everything nowadays. So, I mean, because news has become nothing more than entertainment television. So they have to go with what sells and what is sensational and what grabs attention and stuff like that. They don't report the news anymore.
Yeah.
I mean, President Trump partying live on camera is going to bring more clicks and views than hurricane relief victims, or what the Red Cross is doing to help people who just survived a hurricane and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
I'm glad that you brought that up, Jason. I'm glad you brought that up because just the other week, after the hurricane absolutely wrecked just north of Houston, 500,000 Americans without power. Entire small towns just completely inundated. Like they're gone. And they're tiny towns. They're not like a city the size of Houston. But this is still like a major natural disaster. This was the strongest storm we've had in over a decade. And I went to CNN to look up and see like, all right, show me the news. It's the day after the storm hit. I want to see the news on it. And I'm scrolling. And I'm scrolling. And it takes more than 11 screens before I finally get to some news about the hurricane. And almost all of the news above that was something to elicit outrage. Almost all of it, generally speaking about Trump. And it just occurred to me, like, this is what our mainstream news organizations have become. They are chasing the almighty dollar. And the dollar is, they return it or they get it by the eyeballs. And what drives eyeballs? What drives that engagement? Outrage. Nothing drives engagement more than outrage does. Yeah. So like
100%.
when we're all feeling like times are more stressful and whatnot, like this isn't coincidence. We are literally seeing all of our media orchestrating to make us feel that way because it gets us to click on whatever it is that they're showing, and then they run the advertisements on the side.
Mm-hmm.
I don't have a good fix for it personally. Like any regulation would seem to me to be an infringement of free speech. But on the other hand, like it's tough to work against human nature. So
to piggyback off what you said, Pierce, like. The only thing that I could see as a potential solution is something like universal basic income, in the sense of that, is what Devin said, and what Andrew Yang said, which is like we could then empower the local journalism. As you said, the entire mainstream media is run by the almighty dollar, and so the only way to take it out of it is to take away the almighty dollar from the hands of the mainstream media and their corporations. And then you disperse that
nowadays. Though that's the problem. Pearson and I've gone back and forth on this discussion like all summer. And we keep coming up with a stalemate of you can't take the money out of the media, because the second you take the money out of the media dies. And if the second you make the media government funded, you make it nothing more than a pipeline for what the government wants you to hear, and that's essentially communism. And I'm still dying from that fucking pepper I just ate. Pulling out of the chicken.
Take this fucking beer I see.
I cooked the chicken with the peppers and everything, and
you're a man of milk.
I was pulling the beer's making it worse. That's the worst part.
It's all Pearson.
That's possible. But
So
all
I
right.
had to pull one of the dried peppers out of the chicken, and it was in a taco. And God,
Pretty sure beer makes everything better, but you know, science.
well, I'm not working, Pierce.
And if you're under 18 listening to this, cover your ears.
Jason is specifically like a spicy guy. As in, he likes spicy stuff. You know.
Yeah.
He's a spicy guy, I would say.
Yeah, he's just all around spicy, but yeah, he's super into spice. So, wait, what pepper was this?
It was pepper out of a Mexican mix, peppers that you can buy dried at the store.
Oh, okay, but yeah.
It wasn't descript, but it was one of the small, like, little chili peppers, and
Okay.
I just forgot to pull it. Like, I forgot to pull it out because I like to put them in to get the oil when they're cooking and everything. And you were supposed to pull them out before you eat them, and I missed one.
Interesting.
And it was a little intense.
And to go back to what you guys were talking about with the media, though, I mean, no, it makes sense now though, because it does seem like more of a stalemate. And because before I was like, I feel like UBI could be a solution for it, but after what you were mentioning about okay, even if you take the money out of it, media will die.
Well, so
will
UBI
media die? Will media die if we take the money out of media?
Well, yes and no.
If you buy the money out of media that you get from all the ad spends and everything, then there's no way to pay them. If the government pays the media companies and everything, what's to stop the government from telling the media what they can produce? So you're in that catch-22 of, if you want to take the money out of the media is going to die because there's going to be no money in it.
Yeah, media would evolve, but it just gets a new master. And history has shown us very clearly that master has its other host of problems, when basically state-sponsored media or state-sanctioned media, even if it's not state-sponsored, when that starts to get going, things tend to go pretty far downhill in terms of human rights.
Yeah, I mean, look at North Korea. Look at China before, 30 years ago.
Yeah. Now you were saying UBI is, a solution, and I mean, I would say it would help. I wouldn't call it a solution.
I don't know if it's a solution.
Yeah, I would say it ameliorates though, because with that, people are going to have more purchasing power. Just as a whole, people have more purchasing power. So with that, if they care about news, they're going to be probably more likely to throw a few bucks to a news organization that provides the type of news that they want.
For sure.
So, perhaps someone likes a unbiased, source that always does their homework and whatnot. They might see a bump in subscribers. But so too are gonna, say The Blaze, for example. They're a conservative site, or I could say Huffington Post, on the liberal side. They're also probably gonna get a bump in people that are willing to throw down money to see the content that they want. And fact of the matter is, most people want drama. That it's just human nature. We're wired to want drama. Why is anybody even watching this show? Because we like the dynamics between people. We like learning new things. We like hearing new things. We like getting different perspectives. And maybe those are truthful perspectives. Maybe they're not. Maybe they're wholesome stories. Maybe they're not. But we like drama and all the different flavors that it comes.
I mean, why do you think, with the show as good as Cobra Kai, on freaking Netflix right now. Why do you think $1 Million Beach House is the #1 rated show in America on Netflix right now instead of Cobra freaking Kai?
Is it
I don't
really?
know.
Yes,
But
it
I
really
did just see Cobra
wait.
Kai the first season. I binged the entire first season in one day.
Oh
Yeah.
wow!
It's an amazing fucking show.
Damn, it's
It
really
was-
good then.
It's
If you
good.
don't watch
Yeah,
it, but
it's real good.
It goes to prove that drama is more important because more people are tuning in to $1 Million Beach House or Home or whatever the hell it's called. Fantastic, by the way. I absolutely love the staged drama of that reality writing.
Right.
Reality is yes, I'm using air quotes because I'm going to break the fourth wall for you. Every reality show has motherfuckers like me that write that shit. I know this because I was on the first season of the Kardashians. Shh. They called me as what was it? What was the term that they used to avoid the term writer though? Not script supervisor. Story development or something like that. Like
Story development,
yeah.
aka you wrote Kardashian's
Sounds like a writer.
He was Chloe's
Show. I'd be a
friend.
fucking billionaire by now. Instead of
He was
saying,
Chloe's friend number 4.
this will never work.
Nah,
Close.
all that shit's like that's all for entertainment. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, Natalia, Kardashians, right?
Why are the
I didn't know about
Kardashians
this till
weird?
now.
Kim doesn't say any of the shit that you think she would say.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I mean the only reason
by
why
the
she
way-
sounds half as eloquent because of what Jason wrote, anyways.
Yeah. We'd like to engage the audience. So, Mindful Skeptics, you asked the question, what mechanism could remove money from the media? So, I mean, I don't think we really want to remove money from the media, but like, how would you do it if we wanted to do that, right? The most obvious answer is just state media. You replace it. You say, hey, nice voice you have there. Now it's mine. And if you're not using it for what I want, I'm just going to make my own. That's the most obvious answer to remove money. Another way, though, like, perhaps you don't mean just remove money entirely, but perhaps you mean, say, remove the current ad-driven market model. That's a different conversation. Subscriptions, of course, is like the previous version that we've always had. It was generally like, all right, free content, you get your advertisements, or subscription, no advertisements, right? That's been like the classic thing, war between the two main income models. But I don't think that it has to be unique to those, right? Like, I mean, I'm just spitballing. I wish I had like an answer off the top of my head, but anything from just contributions, they don't have to be subscriptions.
I guess also kind of how Wikipedia does it, with like open source type of media and news is something that I think is I mean, we already kind of have something like that, but on a bigger scale, it could be interesting to play with, and
So that's NPR, basically, is what you just described. That's
oh yeah, we have NPR.
that's
True.
a
I'm like, wait,
modern-
that's NPR.
that's a modern news organization that is funded by contributions from its members, right? Whoever thinks it's important to them gives whatever they think is worth to them.
Yeah.
Which is a cool market model.
Yeah.
Honestly, pay what you think is worth to you, right?
Yeah.
Of course, that's not always sustainable for a lot of organizations.
Yeah, I mean, look at PBS. The public broadcast system, they have to, go to the government and beg for money every year to stay on the air. Just so we can watch Sesame Street.
Damn.
Yeah.
And the concept of sustainability for like a news organization is weird because, like if CNN switched to that exclusively, you would say the current incarnation of CNN wouldn't be sustainable, but CNN is only the CNN it is now because
James Earl Jones's voice. Top of every hour. CNN. That's the only reason I tune in. I mean, come on, it's pretty shit coverage.
Yeah. But like in terms of their production value and reach and scale and everything, you just wouldn't have things at that scale and capacity unless way more people decided to contribute in that way, in the same way that people do to NPR, right? Like when Jason was talking earlier about why you kind of can't get rid of money, what he said, there's a little piece he said that was basically skimmed over, which was, if you get rid of the ad model, there's no other way to make money, therefore. And like that is like the piece that we have to sort out, because it is largely, yeah, again, like you said, Pierce, people are gonna want to go to their sources, right? Like people choose to tune into Fox News now as like a confirmation bias, into MSNBC because of a confirmation bias, but the ad model is what keeps that churn going to like keep sucking more people into it, and social media is the same way. And so if you can decouple like the motivations of out filling the first 11 pages of CNN with outrage for clicks and all this stuff from their existence, from their revenue model, that would be huge.
Yeah.
Like towards that, I just don't know, like I said, how you do that. Like I'm someone who feels that way, but I'll click on a Washington Post article, scroll down, and then it has that like fade transition and says, "Hey, subscribe." I'm like, fuck off, and then I just close it. Like, or I try to open an incognito tab, and sometimes that works, and sometimes it doesn't. So, yeah, people aren't, especially now that like as we've moved into the internet era, like people expect news to be free, essentially.
Yeah.
I don't know how you transition, right? I can imagine a society like where that's like fully decoupled, but I don't know how we get there from here.
Yeah.
Well, I mean,
Yeah.
we had a pretty decent model, like back in the day when we first had the National Public Airways and everything. Like we had the three major broadcasting stations, and CBS, NBC, and ABC. We handed over the government handed over use of those public airwaves to those companies for with the agreement of 1 hour of nightly news every night. That was just the news, no ads or no anything.
Mm-hmm.
And at some point, the government stopped checking what the networks were doing and just like let them go. And they started like, well, we make so much money these 23 hours of the day that are filled with the ads. Why don't we slip one in here? Slip one in here, slip one in here. Have Ted Koppel drink a Coca-Cola on the air, whatever. And they just started slipping them in, and the government like left them unchecked. So therefore, that's when you first saw like the ad money going into news, and then with the advent of cable and the internet and everything, they took that model that they had just experimented with and created, and like, okay, let's do this, but people don't want to put their ads on different networks that don't share their company beliefs. So therefore, the news becomes tailored to what that company, to what the company's advertisers believe.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I mean, you have CNN, Donald Trump just farted live during a press conference in the Rose Garden. If you don't want to be Donald Trump and fart live on television, take a Beano. And then over here, you have like, to find out more on Fox News, you have like, find out more about the conspiracy of Donald Trump supposedly farting live in the Rose Garden on Alex Jones' podcast. Blah, blah, blah. Go watch Alex Jones. I mean, it's the economy of the ads for the type of people who want them, and the news becomes, just a product of what ads they're willing to show as a company, and what the companies that are paying for the advertisement are, willing to be associated with. And we just get this pipeline of watered down, like Pierce said, enragement based on what leanings are. If you're left, you're with CNN. If you're in the middle, you're on MSNBC. If you're on the right, you're, Fox News. If you're
I
on
don't think MSNBC is in the middle, though.
reading plays.
You just made me realize something, Jason. So it used to
Trump really did fart, and we should just, like,
Yeah, that.
there's no such thing as Fartgate.
So you just made me realize something, though, Jason. So it used to be that you create let's say you're making a show or you're writing a story, whatever it is, you have your audience, right? And you write to that audience. And you're also going to have advertisers that are targeted towards that audience, right? Yeah. So if you run, in political terms, a left show, then you're going to have left-leaning advertisements, right? If you run a biking show, you're going to probably have advertisements about bicycling. That's how it used to be. However, today, with all the advertisement tracking that happens, say through your browser, the various identities about your digital data that are created to know that you like something, even perhaps entirely unrelated to the content that you happen to be watching. We're transitioning to where you are the eyeball, regardless of whatever the content that you're watching, and therefore the advertisement that is shown to you is going to be catered to what you, according to the data, are interested in. So let's say that you really like surfing, and hey, you might be watching a political show, but you're getting a surfing advertisement, right? That's not coincidence. And what that means that advertisements no longer are towards the audience. It means they're no longer towards the audience. It means that what happens is your audience is just bigger, or more accurately, I'm saying this wrong, that you should, as a content creator, do everything in your power to get the biggest audience rather than a specific audience. No longer are you deciding, all right, I'm going to get bicycle aficionados so I can run this bicycle advertisement. Now you just want to get as many viewers as possible, and the advertising backend can handle whatever it is that the viewer wants to see on their end.
I mean, as a content creator, you wouldn't want to just cast a blanket statement. It is way better if you have something specific.
Well, no, I mean,
no. So my point with that is that your mission as a content creator is now to just get as many people to view as possible, which then in turn feeds into the clickbait and outrage cycle that we see. Mm-hmm. Whatever your content is, whether
the algorithm and like the type of information that you will get from whoever ends up tuning into your show.
Right. Your advertisements used to be tied to the content that you were making, and now they're not. Now the advertisements can be whatever.
One of the people who still watches actual television. But right now we digest most of our television through streaming versus watching actual television.
Hey, what's good?
But there's totally separate, dichotomies there. You have the streaming generation, Gen Z, Gen Y, and millennials, and then you have the older generation who still watches commercial-driven TV. So as a creator, you have two different types of creators now: ones that create towards grabbing ads for television, and ones that don't. they just write for a giant audience.
Yeah.
It is still the case, though, that that is true that right now the person with the bike, someone doesn't have to make a bike podcast to specifically gather bike aficionados because they want to serve bike ads to the audience, but because again, the ad system will determine what ads are best for the people who happen to be watching the bike content. But from a content creator perspective, it is still mostly the case that to actually generate a audience as big as possible, or at least a consistent audience, it's still probably going to end up being, hey, I like bikes, I'm going to make a bike podcast.
Yeah. Ultimately, that's still the way it is.
Yeah, but the ad, but the explicit purpose in terms of
get your glasses fixed.
Your glasses broke.
I think there was one time where I tripped on my glasses. It wasn't even like a cartoon stepped on them. I just kind of tripped and kicked them across the room.
It's like one of those.
Yeah, and they're all kind of bent. I think I had to force them back together. But yeah, anyway. Yeah, so I think it's still, from the content creator perspective, is still similar. You pick the thing you want to focus on. And now everyone with the internet is there to potentially get your interest. But again, to get them in, to get them to know about your bike podcast, whatever, you might have, and this is creates less of a societal problem if your bike podcast has clickbait on it, for example. But if the news, which is what keeps us knowledgeable and consistent and whole in terms of our fundamental understandings of the world, are based on all this.
It should be.
Yeah. And Jason, you're talking about traditional commercial-based TV versus subscription services. There actually has been a huge move away from ad revenue in the actual content creation space.
Yes.
Whether it's from like specific again with TVs and movies and all this stuff, but and then some of what you're mentioning before with actual like small content creators on YouTube, Twitch, whatever, they'll have a blend obviously of ads that are running on the video or embedded ads like thank you to our sponsor, whatever. The typical like podcast ads, right? Casper or whatever.
By the way, if you want to sponsor us, just saying.
Pabst Blue Ribbon.
Yeah.
What was it? Mighty Tacos. Rest in
Yeah,
peace.
Mighty Tacos. You have to reopen.
Yeah, too late, I guess. But was that their one location, or is that like a chain?
I'm pretty sure they were a chain, actually. I don't know where another location is. This one was by the college, by Rochester Institute of Technology. But yeah, like I said, honestly, that food, only a drunk person would think that it was good. And it makes sense that business model is no longer viable in the current day. Actually, shoot, if you guys want to change the topic a bit. So I was on a bit of a bar crawl just over the weekend. I mean, you can't really call it a bar crawl anymore, but my friend, he works.
One thing.
Sorry?
Before you finish, can I point out one thing?
Go for it.
I have found 47 podcasts about bicycles.
Wow.
I'm surprised not more.
Yeah, I'm surprised not more.
In all honesty.
Those are just
that many.
Those are just the ones you can find.
Yeah, true.
Right. The ones that like bother. Yeah, even show up at all.
People will spend like $4,000 on a decent bike.
Yeah.
All right. Like people that are into the biking hobby, they are really into the biking hobby, and there's a lot of them. So.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I'm actually not surprised not more.
Actually, speaking about bikes and how big it is, I do want to give a quick shout out to Basic Income Movement because on September 19th, there's going to be a Basic Income March, and in New York City, we're doing a specific bike parade on September 19th. Yeah, so anybody who's tuning in from New York City, if you have a bike, hit me up. We could chat afterwards about getting involved with participating and biking. Yeah.
What part is it going to be in?
Manhattan.
Manhattan's big. Which part of Manhattan?
If you're in Manhattan, it's around 72nd-ish, 72nd Street. Not too far away from Central Park area. It's around there.
Okay.
And we're riding around the same area. So yeah.
Cool.
Yeah.
Cool.
Saturday, September 19th.
Yeah.
Yeah. Sorry. Cut you off.
Okay. Pierce was going to go on a story about a pub crawl and tacos, I think.
Yeah. All right. So, here in New York, you're not allowed to go to a bar and just get a drink. That is no longer legal due to the COVID restrictions. So every bar has to be a restaurant. So the way that they've gotten around this is that each bar must serve you some form of food along with your drink. You can get 8 drinks as long as you buy a little bit of food. So how much food do you need to get? Well, I'll tell you that at the first place, I bought popcorn for 50 cents. It was a little itty bitty, like 1 ounce, not even an ounce, like a half an ounce plastic cup of popcorn. Maybe had like 5 balls of popcorn in it.
Nice.
Hold on. You call them balls?
By the way, kernels, not balls.
Yeah,
Kernels. All right. Kernels of
Popcorn balls.
popcorn.
Not balls.
Sure. So it
Yeah.
had like 5 kernels of popcorn in it. The next place I had to get mandatory pizza. So the pizza was, the size of a tortilla chip. Right?
What?
Like all these different places. Yeah. So
That's like a pizza bite, one of those bagel bites.
right. So like the law is obviously doing nothing. And in my opinion, it's worse to have a law that you can't enforce that does nothing than no law at all, right? So even if you think like, oh, hey, I should be putting an extra burden on going to do your bar crawl, or if you agree with the stringent, the more regulated aspect of it, even so, the law is pointless. Absolutely pointless.
Yeah.
My friend. So the reason why we went on this, actually, my friend works as a beer coordinator or a beer distributor. Is closer to it. Sorry, I should say. So we're actually going to like his different breweries that he supplies, and like each one of those breweries has not an open bar, but like a bar for all the patrons that happen to go there. And a lot of these breweries are even out a little bit in the country or whatever. Stay closer to the water source that they want to use or you name it. So like, even though it was beer, it was actually kind of more like a winery trip. So designated drivers are important, without a doubt.
Drink responsibly.
Yeah. But all in all, it was a great time, and it was just interesting to reflect, like, what's with this Cuomo tax, this Cuomo pizza, the Cuomo popcorn. Cuomo's the governor of New York.
Yeah. That's why they say Cuomo pizza, Cuomo like popcorn.
Here's what I want to like. If you check out his FEC filings in 2018, he took so much money from members of the Trump family for his reelection, but at the same time, he wants to stand up there and pretend like he's not a puppet of the Trump family and do all of this stuff that's like so supposedly anti-Trump. I don't understand that, man.
No, he's a
Like,
consummate
he won't make a
politician.
big deal about giving the money back to the Trump family at all whatsoever. But he's like, well, they gave me money. Of course I'm going to use it.
No, he's a consummate politician, down to coming up with ideas that don't work.
Yeah. I just hate that man. He's like so freaking just backwards two-faced. Like, ugh, yeah.
And you don't even live here.
I know.
You live in New York.
I feel so bad for you having to eat a tortilla chip pizza.
Usually we're the ones that complain about our politics.
$17 of those going into Cuomo's pocket.
If your policy can get thwarted by a popcorn ball,
Colonel.
then or sorry, I'm trying to use like the what I assume is like
Tacos terminology here.
It's actually a little softball, and it's pretty fucking delicious. And they come coated in like different spices and caramel and cheeses and stuff like that. Popcorn kernel, which is what Pierce was talking about, is just like the actual kernel of a popcorn.
I'm aware of the popcorn ball. You don't know if it could be like Rochester, New York lingo. We're not from there. You can't assume these things. But yeah,
Done that.
if your policy can get thwarted by a kernel or a pizza roll or whatever you're talking about, then not good. Just not good.
Yeah.
You shouldn't be making policy, I guess.
Yeah, but yet he says he's going to be the best president in the world come 2024. Go figure.
No, I'm just waiting for Yang to come back.
Kim Jong-un is a better president than Andrew Cuomo would ever be.
I don't know about that, but actually,
Biden's not going to be running in 24, is he?
As of 2000,
Assuming he wins, I mean.
statement that he would only be running for one term and be a transitional president. He made that statement in 2019, somewhere in June or July.
Yeah.
Whether he has retracted that statement or not, I have yet to see anywhere. So, as far as we know, he is going to be a one-termer. If he wins, assuming he wins. God hope he wins. I will convert to freaking Christianity from my Judaism roots just to be able to pray to the right Christian God that he wins. And then I will convert back to pray to Jewish Jesus. And then I will become whatever the hell I have to be to pray to the cow in India and pray to the pig in Islam and all of this other stuff. I don't know how religion works, but I will convert to whatever for Biden to win.
whatever is necessary for Biden. Yeah.
I will pray to whatever God there is. 8 arms, 2 arms, no arms, giant ball of spaghetti with, meatball eyeballs, whatever.
I think it's going to be pretty. I think he has his opinions of how the election will come out, but I think it might be pretty close, which is why these battleground states are going to be very important. And which is why our friend John Marco can't be here today.
Yeah.
I also want to give him a quick shout out because he's been doing work. Our man's been doing work on the phone banking for hours. So if you're listening,
Putting his own health at risk, not shaking hands, but doing elbow bumps to keep that 6-foot distance. Because if you don't know, Jean Marc was also as tall as I am almost. So he has like that arm length to go out there with the elbow and make it 6 feet.
just with his elbow. Yeah.
But the man's out there putting in work for David Kim. He's putting in a lot of work for Joe Biden, and respect a lot to that man for what he's doing for us and for the country and for Koreatown. Hopefully, he can help David Kim make Koreatown a place that we don't want to set off a nuclear bomb in, because that place is just like the worst designed area of Los Angeles. Like the traffic is horrible, the lights are horrible.
Traffic is terrible.
The lights are horrible.
It really is. I was there because my brother lives in K-Town too. I was like, oh my god. I mean, just LA in general, man. Traffic in LA is crazy.
Yeah, but there's a different dichotomy in Koreatown. When it like LA
layout of it.
Koreatown is like, what the actual fuck? Like Los Angeles, like, okay, in the pantheon of, like, if you look at traffic across the world has a human body. You have Los Angeles would easily be the taint. India would easily be the asshole. Like, I've driven in India, the worst experience of my life. Thailand would be the left ball, and then Japan would probably be the right ball. But
I feel like Japan is very organized with like the roads.
I did not like the traffic there.
It's traffic.
Yeah,
There's traffic.
Yeah, that's why I would rate it as one of the balls. But Los Angeles is by far the taint, and Koreatown specifically, Koreatown specifically is that part of the thing that is just so close to the butthole.
Well,
Jason is a
foul language aside, I for one happen to really like Koreatown.
No, like the food's
I love
amazing.
Koreatown
That's
too.
why I go there.
Yeah,
To be able to bitch about the traffic so well.
I love K-Town.
Jason will drive an analogy through the earth if he has to.
You haven't noticed
He's
by
like-
now, gang.
Like, yeah. I almost forgot. That is a signature trademark of Jason.
It's like,
Like you'll think he's talking about something else, and then he will be talking about
quick swerve into
Yeah.
anatomy real quick and swerve out of it real quick.
Too much time doing stand-up, I think.
Probably.
Stand up life, That's crazy. Hard.
I can drive any point home.
The reason I asked about what were we talking about? Yeah, the reason I asked about Biden, I think that's what it was. Running again was because you have to assume. Are we thinking that it's going to be like a proper Democratic primary if he doesn't run again, or is it just going to be like handed to Kamala? Like, who's going to run against Kamala, just from like an optics point of view?
I can name 19 people right now.
Yeah. What are you saying? Who you would rather run against? I'm saying, like, once she's VP and like that is a plan of hers,
Yeah.
I would
think-
want people to
No,
run against her.
I agree with you, Devin. I think that Biden likely would do 4 years and basically coronate Kamala Harris to be the next president. Unless something happens during those 4 years where, Harris blew up for some particularly unfavorable reason. But that doesn't usually happen because the vice president doesn't usually have any large responsibilities to fail on in the first place. So I'd be very surprised if that happened. And yeah, I think not enough people are looking forward. I agree. A Biden presidency, at the rate things are going, means very likely a Kamala Harris presidency 4 years after. I don't think many of the Democrats would be willing to run against her. Kamala Harris had more insider Democrat Party official endorsements than Joe Biden did. Just to illustrate how much, during the primary when she was still running, just to illustrate how much of like a DNC heavyweight that she is. She's got a lot of friends in the DNC community. So it would be quite the thing to run against her. Without a doubt, Andrew Cuomo, governor of New York, he's got his eyes on it.
Yeah.
He's but he's also smart enough to, read the tea leaves. And I think if this scenario, as I just said, it is happening, he's just gonna defer.
Okay, I have one problem with what you said, Pierce. Can we not call him smart because he is a fucking dumbass? He has a great team though. I will give every ounce of respect to the team around him that props up that decrepit, like, garbage of a human being.
As an administrator, he does not make intelligent decisions. So I think that's as close as I'll get to calling him a dumbass. I do not like the man. I just tend not to be that pointed about people that I disagree with. But I don't think he's unintelligent. I wish he was unintelligent, honestly. Because then he'd probably be easier to boot out.
Yeah.
I just put everything right on his team. His team is like magical.
Yeah, well, he doesn't give a shit about, actually being governor.
Yeah.
He just likes the power. He doesn't give a shit about actually being governor, which is why every idea that he comes up with is toxic.
He's like one of those Democrats I wish was a Republican.
Yeah.
Or just wasn't a politician.
Yeah, that too. But if he wasn't a politician, he'd probably be serving like 20 to 25 years in a federal penitentiary for some financial crime.
Bro, that would be literally like every politician then,
Not literally everyone, but, like...
Yeah, a good at least 80%.
I put it more at like 48%. There are some honest people out there.
Tim Ryan is running a huge racket.
Yeah, he's running a huge racket. He wants to give everyone money. He's like Satan. Tim Ryan.
Wait.
Yeah, I don't know.
What's this about Tim Ryan?
They were talking about every politician is like has financial stuff. So Tim Ryan's like the epitome of obscure, like generic guy. And I was thinking about him for some reason recently.
Because he's pro UBI, he's honestly looks like America's sweetheart.
Wait, hold on.
Tim Ryan out of Ohio, right?
Tim Ryan that I'm thinking of is the former Speaker of the House, Republican. That Tim Ryan?
No.
You're thinking of Paul Ryan.
Yeah.
Oh, you're right. Thank you for the correction. Who's
Tim Ryan? Tim Ryan is the guy Democrat from Ohio, ran for president.
Right. Yeah. Congressman.
Got in a spat with Gabbard because he said the Taliban. I think it was he said the Taliban flew planes into our buildings, and she was like,
right.
Actually, yeah, okay. Yeah, and he supports. I think it was Ro Khanna. He sponsored that bill with, right? To the $2,000 a month during the coronavirus.
Yeah.
Oh, he's good. He's actually better on policy and on pushing for this stuff, especially now, than I would have assumed first seeing him on the debate stage.
Did you know he tried to unseat Nancy Pelosi as the Speaker of the House?
I did know that, and I wish he would have.
A few years ago, yeah. And he actually came a lot closer than you would probably expect.
The one thing I love about Tim Ryan is when you're in the grocery store and you're looking at what type of white bread to buy, you're like, ooh, Wonder Bread would be awesome. But this generic brand would save me $2. Tim Ryan is the one that saves you $2. He's just that generic store brand white bread that has that Kroger label or the label or the Albertsons label that's 88 cents versus the Wonder Bread that's $2.38.
Which is exactly why you don't expect him to be someone calling for coronavirus, UBI, and I didn't know about this unseating.
You go up against Pelosi, he's just.
I didn't know that.
You will just
take some balls. To be willing to do that, to straight up gun for one of the most powerful Democrats, to straight up gun for their job, that takes balls. Yeah. The fact is, not only did he go for it, but he got well over 100 of the votes. Actually, I'm going to look this up.
No one likes Pelosi. That's the thing. People fear Pelosi. They don't like Pelosi. I mean, yeah.
Does anyone know anything about the guy that's running against her?
I can never remember his name, but he is polling decently well. He might pull in 30 to 35% of the vote against her. He's not going to win, but he's polling decently well. He's doing the best against her that any challenger has done in the past couple of decades. Yeah, because I talked to my family about this too, especially my mom. I talked to her about this quite a bit, but she's someone who's obviously focused on beating Trump and everything, and I'm
I think that's important, mostly not only to like not have the negative effects of him being around, but also just to like get him out of the way because he's just a waste of time in my head, right? Like in my head, in my brain, the actual people who are in the way of stopping what needs to happen are the Democrats who are in the place of the people who would be like the Yangs and the people who would be Democrats who would be actually pushing for stuff.
Yeah.
So yeah, Nancy Pelosi is like right on that list.
Well, here's the problem though.
Yeah.
Like beating Trump does like nothing if we can't unseat Pelosi at the same time because they're two sides of the exact same coin. They're both just horrible human beings that are there to make money. And I mean, Pelosi going on her Instagram live stream to brag about, oh, I have this lovely $12,000 freezer that I just had imported from some country that holds like 1 pint of ice cream perfectly chilled. I'm like, really? You're gonna brag about this while people are getting evicted and can't make rent money and all of this other stuff? Like, really?
Damn.
Yeah, I got
hard to find someone to see
because
her.
Pelosi's net worth, if you Google it, is like over $5 million. Like, I mean, ugh, that's disgusting. And to make that, and she charges like $55,000 per public speaking event, and she does like 5 or 6 of those a year, and just she's disgusting.
Chills.
And if anybody wonders how modern day politician bribery works, that's exactly how. Speaking engagements and re-election campaigns.
Mm-hmm.
That's where the money goes. Because you can't just straight up give a politician money for your, bill or your initiative or whatever you're going for.
Well, not from Andrew Jackson.
Right. But you can give them money.
One good thing he did.
And they'll remember who gave them money.
Yeah.
That's
being a politician isn't that bad of a gig. I mean, you get $180,000 a year healthcare for life. I mean, and we're talking full coverage healthcare. We're talking like no copays. Yeah. That's why Jimmy Gomez, who's running against David Kim, can afford all those hair replacement treatments that he'd be getting and shit like that.
Oh my God.
Didn't Andrew Yang have a policy against speaking? I know he did for the president. He said the president should be allowed to get speaking fees.
Any active member of Congress or the Senate or the Supreme Court or president having any paid speaking gigs while they're in office, and then a 4-year moratorium on that afterwards.
Yeah, I'd be very down with it. I'd be extraordinarily down with that.
Yeah.
Some good ideas that guy had.
I know. Yeah. If only he would run for president, and, I think people would really latch onto him, and, I think he could go far.
Yeah.
I agree.
He might start like a movement or a gang or something, Who knows?
Yeah.
The Yang Gang.
That's a great idea.
Yeah.
Very
innovative. I know, we could call it like the Yang Gang or something, maybe. I mean, it rhymes is kind of catchy, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. And we should take it on Twitter because, the base of
Twitter is where all the real politics happen. I mean, it's not going to Iowa and knocking on doors or anything like that. No, you got to like be out there on Twitter. Yeah, that would just never work though. I don't think anyone would do it.
Yeah, I don't think anybody in their rightful mind would just randomly go to Iowa.
Yeah, I know.
To knock on doors for random people, for a person,
especially not a friend that's in 23rd place. Like if he would run, he would like statistically be in 23rd place. Like, who would do that? I can't think of a person.
Like John Marco, right, is out there. He's like being active and like for Kim and for you said he's doing stuff for Biden too, right?
Yeah, Kim is supporting Biden. So when Kim campaigns door to door, then John Marco is door to door for.
Mm-hmm.
For Biden as well. So
what avenue do I need to go through to? Like I want my activism energy to be dedicated towards making sure that Iowa isn't the first state next time. Where can I do this? I know like everyone's talking about the shit show caucus debacle, but then that kind of died down. Like, can we put a nail in that coffin, please? Like, I'll phone bank. I don't know how that works.
I would love for that to happen. I think the first state should be Hawaii. That way, the next time we go, door knocking, we can do it in a tropical paradise.
What am I gonna do with all the snow stuff that I bought specifically for Iowa, though?
Yeah, I did buy a lot of snow stuff for Iowa. You're right.
So I'll actually answer one of the problems. So New Hampshire has it enshrined in their state constitution that they will be the first primary. So Iowa's way around that is by not having a primary, but having a caucus.
Caucus.
And the caucus, as we all know, is cancer. Straight, undemocratic, and unfair cancer.
Yeah.
And
Can we-
they're first, and they set the narrative for the entire nation, right? So what's the fix? I'm sure that there is an initiative. In fact, if you want to Google it right now and plug it out in the stream, by all means, because I'm sure there is an initiative against the caucus, because even a lot of Iowans are not fans of the caucus.
There's got to be some type of like initiative. for that.
But it most likely means, honestly, that Iowa loses its pole position, and Iowans wouldn't be in support of that. Iowans might be against, getting or keeping the caucus. They might want to get rid of the caucus, but they definitely like being in first.
Yeah.
Right.
I mean, no offense to the people we met in Iowa. I love 80% of you, except for the weird guy that, shooed me off his doorstep going, "Oh my God, Democrat, Democrat, Democrat." But, I love the rest of you, but it's
Most
just
Iowans, right?
fucking cold.
Yeah, it is a wee bit cold. for
Pretty
sure.
cold.
But I had a good time there.
I
And
did.
good part thanks to you guys. So anyway, we've got a question from Aiden. What do we actually need to happen in order to see real political reform, such as electoral reform? Nobody in the duopoly wants this to happen, but in my opinion, we desperately need it. Do we need something like a new Pearl Harbor or 9/11 type shock to actually change anything in this country? How do we get to reform, period?
No, it will not be through new Pearl Harbor / 9/11 type of shock because we already have so many fucking shocks this year in 2020 and still nothing has changed.
Yeah.
Nothing goes through peace.
Like 2020 is like the longest century on record at this point. Like, I mean,
It's been a shit show this whole year.
we squeezed
Long.
like 100 years of pain and agony into freaking 9 months.
Yeah.
The electoral reform stuff.
Like the only good thing that happened in 2020 is Rick Moranis came back to acting today in a commercial for Ryan Reynolds' wireless company called Mint Mobile, and it was beautiful to see Rick Moranis on the screen after 30 years of retirement. It was just beautiful. I love that man. He stepped away from acting to do like a great thing after his wife passed and be like a single dad and like focus 100% on his kids. And just life in general, but like to see him back was great. That's the one thing 2020 has given us worth a damn. The one thing.
Well, I'll take a stab at answering your question, Aiden. So the honest answer is there's no free lunch and there's no quick ticket train.
Yeah.
So right now the duopoly takes an advantage of their establishment, the fact that they are entrenched. They have relations with the media organizations. They have all the relations with the fundraisers. Everybody is scratching each other's back. And it's turned into a very cronyist structure that excludes the new people that actually want to, create change. Because if you're looking to, actually look out for your community first, then you represent a threat to the system that they've established, right? But ultimately, whoever wins the ballot boxes, whoever accedes to the throne, to whatever position it is, mayor, city council, president, you name it. So ultimately, the power still does lie with the Democrat voters. The Democrat voters, and by Democrat, I don't mean the party, I mean,
Because like
our
we're a democracy, we're not
Right. The decision still lies with the voters. So it's up to the voters to force a candidate that will actually be who they represent and not let them fall for media narratives of, oh, this person's going to win or that person's going to win. Now, that's even more difficult to do when we all know, like, oh, hey, 5 different people running. It all filters to the top 2 in the first place anyway, because we don't have ranked choice voting, right? Ranked choice voting is something that has extraordinary popular support anywhere in the United States. In fact, the only reason why it's not a super common thing is just because most people don't know about it. But as soon as any voter is explained, hey, here's this idea of ranked choice voting, would you like to see us transition to that? almost no one is against it. The only people really against it are the people that benefit from it currently. Go ahead, Devin.
Can I? Yeah. So one of the things when I was like still super like wanting to be involved, like post Iowa, things I was looking into was, I'm in Arizona right now, is ballot provisions, because to me it seems like, right? I know like in Arizona and a few other states, like legalizing marijuana in the state is going to be on those provisions. They seem like they're like the only form of like direct democracy, I guess, for lack of a better term. So if they seem like the most direct way to get around this entrenchment,
Yeah.
right? Like if you can get it on the ballot, and then and people can just see it written down, in like as they vote, they'll tend to pick the thing that, again, that is better for them. So ranked choice voting was something that was like my focus, or what I wanted to be my focus, which was, okay, can I get this on the ballot in Arizona? How many signatures does it take? When do I have to do it by? Like that was kind of my plan. And it was like over 200,000 signatures, and I needed it by early July. And then
200,000 signatures.
Yeah.
what was that?
200,000 signatures.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
in Arizona at least.
Ballot
It's
measures are a really interesting thing. Like I just finished doing the one for Yes on 802 here in Oklahoma, which was expanding the healthcare system by accepting the funding collected via taxes from Oklahoma for Obamacare. Like the first step was collecting the signatures required to get it on the ballot, notarizing it, getting all the signatures verified and notarized. And so collecting 200,000 signatures, you actually need to collect more for around 350,000 signatures. So for the verification process, because you got to look at the fact that about 40% of the ballots are going to be signatures are going to be thrown out. And then not only is it getting on the ballot, it's also campaigning for the ballot, which I did in Tulsa for this whole project and everything. And it was, it's very entrenched. And right now we're working on one for marijuana crimes to get them all decriminalized and get everyone who is in jail for a nonviolent drug felony or conviction, released, and all future ones to be decriminalized, and treatment being the first option here in Oklahoma. It's extremely progressive for a state that is so damn red. It's so red here. But, it's about collecting signatures. But you can put in legal measures and everything, like people who oppose it can challenge it for up to a month before it goes on the ballot. So you're struggling, to get things on, and it's insane, but it is, to Devin's point, like he said, it is one of the final true forms of democracy, because it's a yes or a no. You're voting yes for this and no for this. There is no other way. And once it passes, the governor can't renege it. The state senate can't renege it. The government can't renege. Because it passed by the people. So it is the truest form of democracy left in this country, is the ballots.
Yeah, I'm really glad that you brought that up, Devin. Ballot measures are absolutely a huge thing. Here I am talking only about our representative leaders, but ballot measures themselves are huge. Both ways, like the answer is basically the same, that you need to convince your community to go for the best way forward, whether that's a ballot measure or whether that's a candidate that represents you accurately. The good news is, again, because it's the people that decide who wins ultimately, as manipulated as we might be, it is still your votes that are counted. So the good news is that since it's the people that choose who wins, and choose what wins, it means that over time, people that represent and initiatives that represent the beliefs that you have are what wins, right? So ranked choice voting, for example, being a popular thing, the establishment politicians don't want it because it threatens the hold that they have. But, someone decides like, hey, you know what? I'm probably like, let's say it's not the closest of districts, but it's close enough to make competitive. I'm going to compete against him by offering what the people actually want, right? And you say, hey, ranked choice voting is my thing. And then there's a lot of people that really like ranked choice voting. That becomes their thing. Or like, let's say it's weed legalization or whatever. There's a lot of people that weed is their thing, right? So they go out for that. Whatever it is, as long as you're able to mobilize people and just get those votes. Like, so it's kind of a circular, thing that feeds into each other. But at the end of the day, it's the votes that matter. So anything that you can do to get the votes is how we see our political reform today that we're looking for. And over time, the politicians that win advance in their careers and lead and set the narrative and become the examples that we look for. We really need to do everything we can to throw out the current establishment, both sides of the coin, and replace it with people, generally younger people, that actually want what's best for the country. And it's up to us to decide who fits that bill.
Yeah, like currently I'm here in Oklahoma where we have a senator that's been sitting in the Senate since 1984. I mean, as of a year ago, this guy did not know what the internet was or that it existed, according to one of his staffers who did an interview. I mean, he's like 90-something years, Jim Hoffman or something like that. He's like 90-something years old, and he doesn't even know what the internet is. It's insane.
It is important to take a look at your local government for that reason.
Yeah. But the best way if you want to get ranked choice voting in ballot measures. I mean, because if a ballot measure passed for your state to support ranked choice voting, it becomes a thing in your state.
Yeah,
and that's how you elect your officials from then on out.
The reason why, I brought up ballot measures, and again, this came from Aiden's question, is that there's things like whether it's marijuana legalization, climate change stuff, healthcare, whatever, that all relies on having a less entrenched, shitty political establishment. And so the way we can jumpstart making that happen is through, reform that, like he was saying. So again, ranked choice voting, term limits, people talk a lot about a lot of other things. But if it's those people who are entrenched that have to vote on those things, that is going to be very difficult.
Right.
Even I feel like unless there's someone who's younger and cares more about these specific issues, unless they really are passionate about democracy reform themselves, they could get in and be like, well, I want to pass a bunch of good things. So I don't really want to support term limits because I want to be here as long as possible and whatever. So I feel like forcing things in, like again through ballot measures, and kind of leaving no choice, like not leaving up to them, circumventing them entirely, is the fastest way to do it. And obviously, I know this stuff isn't going to be super quick. I think our generation is just pretty impatient with this stuff, right? Like political history is just kind of used to going slow, and we're not used to going slow.
Right.
So we're how can we get around this shit?
Well,
Yeah, exactly.
For ballot measures, it takes an incredible amount of money to get a ballot measure passed because you have to pay the people to collect the signatures. In most cases, you have to pay for the advertising of the ballot measure. Once you get the signatures, then you can get on the actual ballot.
One thing I want to add super quick.
We need people like Jack to step up and do what he's doing as far as like contributing to the whole coronavirus thing. We need him to step up and donate money towards getting ballot measures passed. We need more people like that. Just to put money into it. I mean, it takes $2 million to get a ballot measure passed here in Oklahoma. That's why that was the budget for 802, and we barely got it passed with $2 million. Like we scraped under the line. So like you're looking at $2 million over 50 states. That's $100 million. We need a Mike Bloomberg to come in and be like, "Here's $100 million. Get that ranked choice ballot, passed in every single state or majority of states."
I feel like something that's interesting. Like, we can just like how we can talk about marijuana laws or healthcare laws, whatever. But we have to do democracy reform to really make that happen. We can talk about adding ballot measures in as much as we want, but I think something that people don't focus on enough is what can we do to make the process of getting ballot measures less shitty. right? Like,
There's no way right now.
yes, I know, like not like now,
Yeah, for
But-
now. Yeah.
yeah, like
In
thinking
order
a
to
little
make
longer
ballot measure
term.
less shitty, you're going to have to pass a bunch of ballot measures that ensure we can get progressive candidates in the office who are going to change the way ballot measures are presented to the public.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah,
So first, we have to go through the shitty process of getting the ballot measures done, which I will agree is shitty. It's arduous. It hurts your soul, but we've got to get those passed. That way, we can get the people that we need elected into the office, who will change the laws on how ballot measures are done.
Mhm.
So you're going to have to trust the shit no matter what. I know Gen Y and Gen Z are like, oh my God, this shit just hit the fan. I can't handle this. Oh my God, I've got to run to my mommy and daddy and be like, oh my God, and then blog
Hey,
about
hey,
it.
hey, Jason, would you stop shitting on people, please?
yeah, true. I did say like our generation, but I forgot just how old Jason is. Like, oh my goodness.
Yes, I am a millennial. I think I'm the only millennial in this podcast.
Yeah.
Aren't we all
but-
millennials?
Who was born after 94?
I was born
Okay.
on 94.
Yeah.
Yeah, I guess I'm. Yeah.
You're modeling myself for all millennials. Devin is Gen Y or Gen Z.
Z, I think. Yeah.
Yeah.
I think Y is made up. I think it's
95? 96?
Yeah, Gen Y is 94 through 04.
97.
Okay.
97. Gotcha.
I don't know how to say the name right. One Seabass one. Reform comes with community education. In a time of massive pandemic displacement, there's no better moment to bring our communities together. But what exactly does that entail? Holy moly. All right. For one, you're absolutely right. Like, education is the foundation of any functioning democracy. So for everybody that doesn't know yet watching, I spent 8 years in the United States military, and I can tell you that this is a bit of a tangent, but it's relevant. We have failed at building democracies in Afghanistan and Iraq. And the fundamental reason why we have failed is because we did not educate the people. You need an educated populace to safeguard democracy. And we did not create that. So we need to create an educated populace, not only abroad, but also here, right? And how do you do that here? What does educated populace mean, right? I certainly don't mean anybody with a college degree is educated, but rather critical and informed thinkers. I think that's really what we're looking for. We want critical and informed thinkers, informed as in educated on whatever it is that they're going to be making a decision on, i.e. voting, right? So that's what we want. How the heck do we get it? The honest answer? Economic improvement for everyone. Because being concerned with politics more than just having an opinion, but actually taking any sort of action about politics is totally a luxury of either the, politically romanced, those that just are super interested in politics, or the people that have the spare time and money to give a shit.
Mm-hmm.
So if we increase the economic prosperity for everyone and raise the floor, as it were, then that will increase the bandwidth that people have to be able to care about their community, the community that they live in, that you live in, that we are all part of together. So there's your honest answer. It's in order to have that educated populace, we can't just say like, oh, hey, I've got an idea to like teach people. No, it's fundamentally not going to work until that's building a house without a foundation. The foundation of a economically prosperous population is a requirement.
Yeah.
I also think education is throughout school, because currently, we have like an education system that doesn't favor winning and losing, which is what democracy is in a way. So I think proper education in school, where we allow like more freer elections in school and teach kids about democracy in that way, in a hands-on environment, like having student body presidents and stuff from like elementary school on and so on. Like I think that would help tremendously as well, because right now when people go through all throughout school and they've never had a win or a loss, because everything just worked, and democracy is just this idea. When they go out there and they like lose for the first time in that democracy, they're like shocked and they're stunned and they're just like curl away from it and they don't want to do it anymore. I think, callousing them throughout education and everything in our schools, and like, teaching democracy hands-on for, throughout the future, that would help tremendously as well. I mean, that way they understand that, sometimes you're going to win, sometimes you're going to lose. But in the end of the day, it's like more important to keep fighting than, just being scared and running away after your first loss. You can't retreat. Democracy isn't about retreating. Like if we would have retreated, on an uphill battle as a country, as America, we would have never become the country of America as we are today,
Yeah.
Does that make sense? I don't know. I've got to be honest. I'm like 12 years.
So it does make sense. Ultimately, I think that's
I still agree
just
with Pierce, though. ultimately.
it's shifting responsibility to something that's not going to be reliable. So creating a government program, in this case, hey, a new class to teach about democracy, is first off far more difficult to accomplish, but far more difficult to succeed is the bigger factor, right? Like public education is
That's why I said in combination with, like,
yeah.
Like, I mean, you need that, economic display. Like, you need that raise the floor, but at the same time, you also need to raise the floor and educate. Because raising the floor without educating,
Right.
Yeah.
But so here's the thing. Any government initiative has to be measured. How do you measure success for that?
Economics.
No, I'm talking about your education plan, right? That you want to institute in public schooling, which, by the way, I'm not saying is a bad idea automatically. I'm just explaining some of the difficulties with it.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I actually do think that critical thinking courses would benefit the vast majority of us. Culturally speaking, we've tended to be a lot more of a critical thinker, just nation as a whole. But with the outrage culture, what happened, right? But with the outrage culture, people are reacting emotionally first and critically thinking second, more and more as of late.
Well, that's because the outrage gets more clicks and more views.
Right.
Because actually, if you think about it, like everyone in the world right now is part of the media because we all have access to social media. We can all live stream.
Yeah, pretty much.
We can all tweet. We can all everything. So and we fall into the same thing. What gets us the most attention? And that's the outrage before the critical thinking.
One Seabass, one commenting again, at this point, the only thing that can change the system is a movement big enough to spread wealth. UBI and incentivized permaculture are hand in hand. Incentivized permaculture, that's a term I haven't heard before. Any of you know it?
What does that mean?
I don't know what it means.
I don't know what it means.
Feel free to tell us in the comments, Seabass.
Yeah.
So one problem with spreading the wealth is it's all about the implementation, right? So like from a concept, it sounds scary because we've seen other governments do it and we've seen it go terrible time and time again. And those terrible examples are going to be forefront in our minds when we think about it. And we don't think about like the examples where it worked out, right? Community-wide garden.
I love that. 100%.
And
yeah, my parents are part of their local community garden. They it's a regular thing for them to do, and they just go down to the street where it is, and talk to their neighbors sometimes while they're out there gardening. And one person has the squashes, one person has watermelon. And
or groceries.
Yeah, I mean it's basically like free groceries. Honestly, you're just basically expected to contribute something to the plot and take what you need.
Real quick, I think Seabass, I guess, is talking about gardening specifically. But when you mentioned that you didn't know, I was just looking at permaculture, and the definitions I was seeing is it seems like the focus is on the gardening. But here it just kind of says it's a set of design principles centered on whole systems thinking, simulating, or directly utilizing the patterns and resilient features observed in natural ecosystems. So it says regenerative agriculture, rewilding, and community resilience. So it seems like it's almost like a design philosophy that is most common, again, with like community gardens. But I guess what you mentioned, Pierce, now is as to like the benefits of that, right? In terms of like getting a community to actually be a community around a garden. Mm-hmm. Do that, like carry through that design with as many other things as possible. It seems like that's just kind of what permaculture is. And it's funny because it sounds like something that just we used to have more of, which is especially, I mean, certain areas is definitely true. And it seems like it's a specific design philosophy to achieve, I guess, what Seabass and we're talking about, which is like, how do you get from the lack of that, right? How do you take a community that doesn't have a community garden and maybe doesn't even like consider the fact that you could have a community garden and like isn't community oriented at all to that point, right? How do you get a community to that point? I guess, which is a lot of what we were talking about earlier with.
Honestly,
Yeah.
I think it takes one driven person to go out there and start the garden, and then start divvying up the benefits of the garden throughout the community.
Well, you need land first.
Yeah,
And quite frankly, I've been to more than one community garden that the city allocated that is just desolate and waste, and that the people don't even use, and would quite frankly contribute to the community a much better way in another utilization than as a community garden.
Yeah,
So
exactly. Like
the people have to want it and use it, and that's assuming that it's the government giving you the land. I think the better community gardens aren't the government ones. The one that my parents go to, I just mentioned, that's actually owned by a nearby church. The church just has it open to everyone. Like their church isn't adjacent to it, but the church owns the plot of land and it would otherwise be empty. So they
co-op
they come and use it as a garden. Those tend to go a lot better, and really like, because you're wanting a cultural shift with it, right? Like that's what you want. So in urban living, most people don't own the land that they live in, right? So what you actually want is the landlords or the owners or whatever, say an apartment complex even, to be like, all right, we have a community garden on the roof, right?
Yeah.
I don't think that, asking the government to like restrict a certain plot of land as a community garden, I don't think that's the winning strategy. I think the winning strategy is people taking it unto themselves, whether that is with their purchasing power of where I'm choosing to live, or whether that is because they own the land themselves. I think it's up to the people to decide, hey, this is going to be our community garden.
I mean, that wouldn't be considered community. If it's from the state, how is that community? It has to come from the people, like a Good Samaritan or like a church or some nonprofit organization within the group that has land to put out for the community. That's when there's like true community building too. And
right,
I've seen it in New York City where like it's done wonders to communities, especially in like very specific urban areas. Like the amount of like mental health, like spiritual health that people gain from like attending and from helping out with like gardening communities, like it goes so far. It gets people out of gangs, gets people out of trouble, gets people to think holistically, especially in places like New York City where it's like we don't even have a lot of land and trees to begin with. Like it makes a difference.
It gets you to know your neighbors, and it increases the ability to watch out for one another and to know when something's happening.
100%.
It makes it safer.
Mm-hmm. We have such a lack of trust in another, like in America, for example, where misinformation or because you have a different political belief, I can't trust you, I can't talk to you. When you have something that's set up where everybody's working together to eat, to provide for one another, you learn something way new, and like you feel more connected to your neighbors. You care about them a lot more. So
for sure.
That is, I would love to see that.
All it takes is one person to influence others in this activity. I agree with you.
100%.
I feel like this warm and fuzzy moment is a pretty good point to end the podcast. It's already
It's been an hour and 34 minutes.
It's been an hour, 34 minutes.
That's right.
Yeah.
I think this is probably the longest one that we've done yet.
Yeah, I think so.
This one on this platform.
Of course, it would be like the premiere episode that we go over on.
That's right. So hopefully everybody, felt like they grew somewhat. I know that my belly didn't grow as much as I wanted it to, since I didn't actually have real tacos.
We appreciate
the queso. Yep, the queso was pretty good though. I'll tell you that. But yeah, it's been good being here with you
Sure
guys.
you remove the peppers from your tacos, like when you're,
Nope, I just add them in.
I have to get some food with me too. For sure, I just have my wallet.
All right.
Yeah, next time how about this idea? We throw it out there. We can do a vote right now. Should we set up a Patreon for tacos?
A Patron.
A Patreon
Oh.
to keep us
Yeah.
on the air, right? Because our streaming
tacos,
service
more
does
specific.
cost a little bit of money, I guess, if you want to chip into the taco fund or the streaming fund. You know what? Yeah. Anybody in the comments, if that's something that you would like us to see, we can put it out there. I guess that way we don't have to run advertisements as we were talking about, right?
Yeah.
If you don't contribute to our Patreon, 2 months from now, the titles will be Jason and Pierce get into a fight that you wouldn't believe.
Yeah.
It's not. Whatever.
Collect now.
Yeah.
Check it out on World Star Hip Hop too.
If anybody wants to be generous enough, tell us that you would like to help out, and we'll make it happen. Other than that, everyone, hopefully you had a good time with us. I know we did. Stay healthy, stay part of your community, and always look forward and grow. Thanks, everyone.
L'chaim.